Right about now, you are listening to the Legacy and Leadership Podcast.
Lyric are us.
Happy year.
Still to be happy about.
You're up too old.
Job's not finished.
Legacy is what you leave behind. Leadership is how you are defined. Tomorrow, I don't know the sun gon' shine. So today, I'm trying to replenish my mind.
Legacy, leader, yeah. Legacy, leaders, yeah. Legacy, leaders, yeah. Legacy.
Legacy leaders, good evening. Yes, coming at you. This is Coach Jimmy Jr. along with Devon Watts Jr. And this is another session of Cold Brew and Convos. Cheers with your L3G coaches. Hope everybody's doing well today. So it is Wednesday evening, and we're coming back at you again live, excited about what we have in store for our community today. A couple of announcements, as always. If you have not peeped just yet, our 32nd episode of the Legacy and Leadership Podcast dropped today, which is really part two of our Mentored by Adversity MBA series, where we had our special guest, Shannon Martin, on, who is the Director of Communications for Podbeam, which happens to be the platform that we utilize to do our podcast. So if you haven't heard part one, which was released last week, and then part two, which was released today, definitely do so. Very interesting as we dive into how to use podcasts and different examples of how you can use podcasting within your learning and development strategy for your business or your organization, for a number of different purposes, for training, skill development, for even onboarding as well. So again, if you haven't done so, make sure you pay attention. We got somebody says they're excited. I'm excited too. I have a whiteboard behind me. I don't know what's up with that.
Plot twist.
Yeah, plot twist. We're going to do things a little bit different this evening. So Devon and I were talking, as we do a lot, and conversating about this month, which we already had planned. Remember, we were definitely going to be much more intentional about our planning and making sure that we're bringing as much fire as possible and adding as much value to our legacy leadership community as we can. So last month in February, which obviously is closed out already, we were really focusing on relentless drive. And within that, how do you cultivate grit? How do you cultivate resilience? We had a number of episodes that we did in regards to that. We even had a speaking engagement where we spoke to a business and their team in the call center about, again, cultivating grit in that workplace and how you use that to help deal with change and go through change. All that's culminating, I should say, with our newest release, which is going to be coming out soon. I'm not going to give a specific date, but definitely be on the lookout for our Relentless Drive ebook and e-content that we're going to be having for you that Devon and I will be finishing up over the next several days or so. So that's definitely on the way. But we're excited about March, because in March, we're going to be talking about a few different things or different, I guess, kind of topic, and mind mapping. Now, I was introduced to mind mapping about 12 years ago. It was actually one of our coworkers at work, and we were talking about Trinity Fitness. And I was, at the point where I was going to start doing Trinity Fitness and some of my personal training stuff. And she was like, "You should do a mind map." And I'm like, "A mind map? What is that?" And she explained. We got a pen and a pad, and we just started going at it and going through this process of thinking about all the different aspects that I really needed to think about when it came to launching a facility and launching a gym, which was really, really cool and was very beneficial and helpful for me from a strategizing and planning and thinking process and going through all of the different aspects. So we really thought that that's going to be a good opportunity for us to talk about that topic again over the month of March. So you can expect a couple of things coming up. Our next episode, which is going to be launching next week, is really going to be talking about 6 different areas that mind mapping or challenges that mind mapping is going to help you to overcome. That's going to be next week, which is going to be, again, our 33rd episode. And then we're also going to be having another episode talking about 3 ways that consistent mind mapping will help you build, maintain, and elevate your business. So it's really mind mapping for entrepreneurs. And then with our MBA series, we're going to be looking to have a mind mapping expert that will help us to dive deeper into that topic. So a lot coming for the month of May. I don't know who said they're excited, but I'm excited about this cold brew. I'm excited about March. Plus, all my Pisces out there. It's my birthday.
Yeah. Yes. Happy birthday. Birthday coming up. Early birthday for
not
Coach
today,
Jimmy G.
but it's coming. Yes.
No, yeah. I was going to say for Coach Jimmy G, birthday coming up. So, yeah, it is Pisces season. Actually, I saw a funny post. And I got to call this out because I'm a Leo and we're
Really?
known. Yeah, we're known for our personality just a bit, but I saw a post that had me cracking up. It was like, man, it's like the first week of Pisces season, and I ain't seen one fire birthday outfit yet. Yeah.
Like a true Leo.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. I think I liked that one a couple of times. Like I liked it, unliked it, and liked it again. It was so funny. But actually, man, I'm really excited about what we have on the store for March. I think when we were going through our strategy session, we kind of built it as our March mind mapping madness, right? Our March mind mapping madness. What I love about mind mapping, and especially for our viewers, right? We started off this year talking about goal setting. We started talking about developing the right level of discipline in order to get after your goals and in order to achieve whatever you've set out at the beginning of the year to say, hey, this is on your roadmap, right? Then we talked a little bit about regrouping because we've had like a month under our belt at the time, and maybe you fell off the wagon. Maybe you're not tracking towards the goals that you've been trying to accomplish, but there's nothing wrong with that. You can always regroup. There's nothing wrong with hitting the restart button. We've talked about that, re-strategizing and then moving forward. So it just seems appropriate that the next thing we will follow up with is mind mapping, because what I love about the concept of mind mapping is a lot of times when we're thinking about change or we're thinking about implementing something, we tend to think so linearly, right? Like step 1, step 2, step 3, that it constrains the creative thought that we really should have when we're talking about coming up with different solutions and different approaches and just how can we grow and do things differently. So mind mapping, because it is not linear in nature, right? You start with that central concept and then you branch out from there. And it is very free form in terms of getting your thoughts committed to paper, or for this episode, whiteboard. I think that there's going to be a lot that our legacy leader community is going to be able to take away as we break this down over the next month of March. So we'll be getting into not just these specific strategies and ways that, mind mapping can help you to achieve goals and overcome some of your obstacles. But we'll get into the technical aspect of it as well as the practical and kind of the thought leadership aspect of it. So, man, I'm really, really geeked. So when we were thinking about what would be a good place to start as an example of an effective mind map, I was reminded about a conversation I recently had with my pops. And for those that have been following us for a while, clearly, you know, the level of influence that our fathers have had in our lives when it comes to leadership, when it comes to worldview, when it just comes to all of those things, right? And if you've listened to my story specifically, on our episode Astronaut Ninja, one of our very, very first episodes of the podcast, I talk about the fact that my father, his background is rooted in law enforcement and in military, which is definitely different from mine. While I've had that type of upbringing, I mean, you can even tell by how I've made the guest bed, right? Like it's still like military corners and all that stuff, right? But it just the things that we've had to experience from a leadership perspective can sometimes be similar, but also be vastly different. Mm-hmm. And so when I was talking to Pops, he was telling me that one of the tenets that they focus on from a troop engagement perspective, like as an officer when you're leading troops, right, is your main priority, your checklist of responsibilities center around making sure that you deliver the money for your troops, you deliver the mail, for your troops, and you deliver meals for your troops. Like those are kind of the three core tent poles or tenets that they focus on in military and also in law enforcement, but especially military, to ensure that you keep an engaged troop base, right? Because I mean, these people are away from their families, they're overseas, they're in less than desirable conditions, their life's at risk. Like you have to be able to keep engagement high. And so those are the three things that they focus on. And just listening to them share that, like I couldn't help but see the parallels between those three areas and how that can actually translate in the non-military space, in the business space, in the entrepreneur space, as you're building your business or as you're a leader in an organization. Like the importance of, with your team, with those that you're leading, ensuring that you are delivering on making sure that they have their money, their mail, and their meals, right? But not necessarily in the same traditional sense as the military, right? Because we're not writing home letters. So when I thought about breaking that down, like from a money perspective, when we talk about money, right, we're going to be talking about ways that, and brainstorming or mind mapping ways that you can ensure that you are investing in your people, whether it's tools, resources, also that you're speaking to the things that truly incentivize them and motivate them to remain engaged. From a male perspective, when we talk about male, again, to me, that's about communication, right? So ways that you can diversify and ensure that you are communicating effectively with your team in order to drive maximum engagement. And then lastly, meals. Yes, especially anybody that's worked in the call center space, it never hurts to buy a couple pizzas, right? But we're not talking about actually feeding people, with food. What we're talking about when we mention meals is, are you feeding your direct reports? Are you feeding those that you're responsible for from a development perspective? Are you helping them grow? Are you feeding them knowledge? Are you feeding them information, right? Those type of things. And so we thought that'd be a really great way to start mind mapping. So what we want to start with is that central tenet of engagement, like driving maximum team engagement and then branching out from there. And again, this applies for all teams. So again, if you're an entrepreneur, this applies. If you're a business leader, it applies. If you're just trying to lead your family, trust me, this applies, right? So starting off with engagement, employee engagement, right? And then from there, branching out and breaking down these other three areas of money, mail, and then meals.
So just for our legacy leader community out there, if you've heard it, but you don't have a clear, kind of understanding of what mind mapping is. Mind mapping is really just a way of seeing information in a different way, which often helps to lead us to having a more focused mind, right? So how we see things depends on what type of focus that we really use. So with mind maps, you can take really large amounts and large chunks of information from your brain and put that into very organized, bite-sized chunks of specific information, which we're going to, again, kind of give you a framework of what that looks like. This is going to give you clarity on the project that you're working on and the end goal that you're trying to get to as well. One thing that I've learned over the years as well, and even recently, is that since mind mapping really is a visual tool, it allows you to add different colors, images, text. Obviously, we're using a whiteboard, but there's tools online that you can use to do mind mapping, or just pulling out a pen and pad, getting some colored pencils or markers, and just allowing your creativity to kind of blossom as you're going through that process. And it really, again, sparks the creativity and leads to hopefully enhanced performance. And again, I know that I've used it for several years now in a number of different kind of cases and reasons, and it has definitely helped along the way. So hopefully you guys can see a little bit, but we have a little smiley face, right? Because we want our employees to be happy. The happier that folks are, the more engaged they're going to be. And Devon is going to kind of talk us through it. I know he already mentioned a few things, so I'll start to draw them on there. And then I'll draw and he'll talk.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So why don't we go ahead and start off with money, right? With money. Hopefully you guys can see that with no issue. If you have issues, just let us know. Ping us in the chat. We'll be able to see it. Also, if you're listening live with us right now, why don't you go ahead and give us a hashtag team live. If you happen to be catching this on the replay, go ahead and hit us with a hashtag team replay, just so that we know that you're plugged in and paying attention here with us, right? So we're going to start off with the first area, which is money. And again, I kind of already started talking about this just a little bit. When we're thinking about money from an employee engagement perspective, yes, obviously compensation plays a role in that. But I think most of you, if you've led in any capacity, can attest to the fact that compensation is a lot of times not the only thing that matters. I know from my own experience, especially early on, I've had the opportunity to cut my teeth in sales and in collections and things like that, right? And they were some really, really good paying jobs, especially, kind of for where I was at. Hey, one time Team Live, one time for Rico. Hey, what's going on, Rico? Yeah, if y'all wondering who the voice is, hey, Mary, how's it going, Mary? If you're wondering who the voice is on that intro, that's Rico. Rico blessing us
the
with
L3G crew, because it's not just Warren and myself. Mary, team member, Rico, lifelong team member. Appreciate y'all being here with us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So when we talk, again, going back to money. So when we're talking about money, again, it's not just the financial compensation. I've had opportunities where I've had jobs that paid exceptionally well, but they didn't invest. They didn't invest in the tools and the resources in order to make my job easier. And at the end of the day, there was no amount of money that compelled me to want to stay, right? Want to stay with that organization, right? So when we talk about money, we're talking about value. What are the different ways that you can create value, right? So we mentioned first and foremost, like by investing in tools and resources, right? That investment can take on like I said, a number of different ways: tools, resources, training, right? Training. They can definitely act as an investment. I doubled that down because a large part of the value that we find is missing in the workplace, as we've talked to other professionals, as we talk to organizations, is they've skimped the budget on the investment, right? You bring in and you attract the best talent in the world, but you don't invest in the training and you don't set people up for success, right? And then when they get in there and they're asked to produce for you, at the end of the day, because they didn't have that foundation, because that value wasn't invested, they can't be successful, and you ultimately end up losing those individuals, right? So from a value perspective, tools, resources, training, right? Another one that we kind of talked about is incentives. And incentives can take on a number of forms, right? Obviously, you have your traditional monetary incentives, right? We're talking about bonus plans, commission-based programs, right? But there are other incentives that are out there as well, right? What about recognition? Individuals who value recognition. What about experience, like hands-on experience and opportunities, right? For some of your workforce, as you really take a step back and you focus on what is of value to them, right? You start to understand that there's a couple of different profiles that usually exist in the workspace, right? You have kind of the futurist mindset. That's the individual who is always focused on what is next for them. What is the next opportunity on the horizon? When is the next promotion coming? When is the next new initiative coming down the pipeline? When can I be involved? Where can I make a difference? Right. And this may vary, I would say, by age groups, by generations, by, again, just kind of life circumstances, what folks have going on. Right. Now, you may have the other type of individuals who are more, kind of bread winners. Right. They're probably the single source of income. They're the primary breadwinner, the bread earner. They're looking for stability. Right. They're looking for stability. So an incentive for them may be more centered around things like work-life balance, their schedule, right? Stability in the company, stability in their paycheck. They may actually be averse to, commission programs or bonus programs, right? Because that may not represent stability for them. I know that, Jimmy and I, we've seen that a number of times where as we've looked at rolling out new commission programs or incentive structures, right? You have to think about the individual that literally says, I'd much rather keep the 50 cents than gain the opportunity to pick up $2, right? Because the 50 cents represents the stability, things that they can plan around, where that $2 is the unknown, is the variable, right? So these are a couple of just like really simple, high level examples of ideas and things to start thinking about when we're talking about value. All right. And as you can see, just kind of taking it back to the mind mapping activity, what Jimmy's done is he's not necessarily written it out in terms of line items, right? He's created these bubbles, these groups, these thought groups under the umbrella of value that he can continue to branch out and refine and delineate until he gets down to some very tangible actions, right? Because I think that's the other thing that we've talked about a little bit, in terms of the value of mind mapping, is it allows you to hone in your focus, right? Hone in your focus and then get down to these tangible actions that you can take after getting all of your creative thoughts out so that you can move towards delivering on the goal of what's in the center, which in this example is employee engagement.
And I broke it out a little bit for incentives, which was, really the right thing to do: bonus, commission, work-life balance. But even for tools and resources, I can continue to take that a step further if I have more space, right? So we know tools and resources, but if you're talking about an office or call center, having a company, when we're talking about money and value, that is investing in newer or better computers and your phone system, all of those things work, right? And they work better, and it makes your interactions with customers and clients that much more efficient and effective. So I'm happier about what I'm doing because it's working. We have a couple of learning and development folks on us live with us too, dropping so many golden nuggets. Tools and resources, right? You need tools. You need things like Camtasia. You need things like authoring tools for e-learning, video editing software. And we've been in these situations where if you don't have the resources to be able to purchase those things, and that some of these things are just industry standards, again, those are some of the things that can kind of have employee engagement start to dip. So again, we can even, break out even more on tools and resources. And of course, with training, what type of training is going to help in increasing employee engagement and making sure that folks are happier about their job and the value that they're adding and the value that the company is adding to them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The last thing I'll say about that before we move on to mail and start talking about that, right, is what I love, especially in the investment space, is, this kind of general tenet, and I'm not sure where I got it from. I may have heard it in passing, just kind of talking to folks in the space, right? But I love this as kind of the marker to head for when you're talking about value is your employees should never feel like they took a step back in terms of time, like technology, like they went back in a time machine when they have to clock in to work for you, right? The same tools and resources that our folks are using. You good, Jimbo?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, cool. All right. The tools and resources that our folks are using, right? It shouldn't feel like it's less intuitive, right? And less effective than their phone or the applications that they use today. They can go online and they can, put something in their cart and check out, right? And that web-based interface, like, they should have the same look, feel when they're working with your systems and your applications, right? So if they feel like it's dated, to your point, if you don't have Camtasia and you feel like in order to get training out, I got to literally, cut this recording on vinyl and then send it out, right? I guarantee you're not going to attract or retain the right type of talent to really help propel your organization in the right direction or maintain high employee engagement.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. All right, so next tenet for employee engagement, we're going to talk about mail, right? So again, like I mentioned, when we're talking about mail, mail is really to capture the concept around communication, right? Around communication. And there are a litany of ways that you can drive effective communication in order to drive employee engagement, right? We've mentioned some of them. And in fact, if you listen to our most recent episode 32, the Legacy and Leadership Podcast, where we do our part 2 of the MBA series with our host or our guest, Shannon Martin, we talk exclusively about leveraging podcasts, adding that into your learning strategy and in your communication strategy, right? Because she shares a couple of examples of just different ways that organizations in the industry, whether they have a dispersed workforce, sales force. Maybe they have remote folks. Maybe they're in a highly regulated industry. Maybe they are in a customer service space where, there's not really time to take people away from their work, but there's a lot of unproductive time in between their activities, like leveraging podcasts as a communication vehicle, whether it's in the form of doing TED Talk style communications, or doing interviews, right? Or using it to get out quick messages, right? Because I think she shared this fact, and keep me honest on this, right? From a communication perspective, studies have shown that we retain about 7% of written communication that we process or that we receive, but about 40% of auditory communications that we receive, right? And so she mentioned that, which I thought was interesting to hear those figures, but also kind of validated just kind of my own operating process, because there's some things that I do when I'm trying to retain information in order to make sure it sticks, a combination of taking notes, but really just listening intently, right? But yeah, when we talk about communication, it can come down to regular cadence of meetings, right? So you're talking about like huddles. We're talking about podcasts. We're talking about video, right? Integrating video. I think that's highly effective when we consider the nature of our current workspace, and working remote for a lot of organizations. You're bringing on people, and I know you've all experienced this. Actually, hell, Jimmy's experienced this himself, right? Jimmy, you got bought on to a brand new opportunity solely remote. Like your onboarding experience, the whole nine, right? Like they shipped you your resources to your front door, say, hey, welcome to the team. Here's your starter packet. Log in, log into Teams, and then we can start meeting that way, right? Correct. And so you lose obviously some of the benefit of those informal communication vehicles that we used to take advantage of when we were face to face, break rooms, water coolers, right? Taking people to lunch, all that good stuff. But you can supplement that with some of these other tools. So from videos, podcasting, I don't know if you have some other thoughts.
Well, I was going to say emailing, but I'm just going to kind of leave it there. We're talking about communication and different ways to be able to communicate with your staff and with your team, your employees. Obviously, email is one, using video, using podcasting. And when I say, video, that's actually one thing I'm really impressed with my current company is the amount of production that they actually do, and the amount of videos that we put out. Some of it is about messaging from our leaders. Some of it has to do as an engineering company with projects that we're working on. And then sometimes it's fun things like, again, specifically for employee engagement, like during the holidays, our CEO was like a 10-minute video of him and his wife in their home, like cooking and doing recipes and stuff like that, and sharing that with the staff. But using all of these different forms of communication to ensure that whether it's something fun and exciting or something important, especially when you're talking about change and change management, that your people have the amount of details that they need for the level and for the role that they specifically have. So making sure that the more informed your people are, the more connection they're going to have, the more they're going to feel engaged, the more they're going to feel that they're in the know of what's going on. And I'm sure positive, because we've seen it, the more appreciation they're going to have for the leadership staff when you're over communicating as much as you can. There's going to be some things that, again, are only going to be for certain folks in certain levels, but what you can provide, make sure that you're providing it and you're using various methods to be able to get that information out to your folks.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well said. It actually, I love that you brought that up, because it made me think about, even as we look at some of those specific bubbles, right, like video, even within that, or in podcasting, right, you have formal, you have informal communications, you have things that are geared towards rapport, you have things that are geared towards change, right? And it just really starts to challenge you to think about what is the best vehicle to disseminate this information. 2020 has been nothing. 2020 was nothing but a year of change for a lot of organizations. That's only accelerated into 2021. And I think the thing that was telling, at least from my perspective, and as I talk to other leaders in the space, is it really forced you to reevaluate your communication strategy when it comes to managing change. I think we've relied so often on the need to be in the same space as other individuals, right? And to influence them in the moment. Like, right, when this change comes out, like I'm gonna be present on the floor, and if people have questions, and I'm gonna be there for that. And I can meet with people one-on-one, and they can see me, they can touch me, they can feel me, I can talk to them, I can see their eyes, right? And then now, because we haven't had the benefit of those levers, it's forced you to think about, well, what is really our communication strategy when it comes to these things? If we're going down the path of, really, fleshing out our value, the value that we're offering to our team and these incentives, like how do we communicate that effectively? Yeah. Right. This is a big pay change, or this is a new commission structure, or we got a new tool. Is it as simple as sending an email? Should it be, something that's much more multifaceted? Could it be a combination of a podcast, type format where we're interviewing people that are on the pilot so they can talk about their experiences, or where we can interview the head of our learning department so we can hear how they envision this new tool, making it easier for the onboarding experience and for people to hit the ground running and being effective. Is it a video that kind of is like a nice little, 1 minute, 2 minute commercial about this new tool or resource and why it's going to make the difference, right? How are we leveraging these different communication vehicles for drip communication? The businesses that have the highest engagement are the ones that have figured out or have invested heavily in mastering delivering the mail, right? Delivering communications effectively.
Well said, my friend. Well said.
Cool.
All right. So we have money, mail, and then meals.
Meals, right? So the very last bubble here for engagement. And if anybody's had the opportunity to work with Jimmy and myself directly, or see us when we get into whiteboard mode, we need a pretty big whiteboard. This is not effective. I see him, he's constrained. He's like, nah, man, I just want how to use this resource. I could just get this one out here, right? But when we talk about meals, again, this is not about buying pizzas. It's not about taking folks to lunch. It's not about, buying an abundance of candy. It's, are you feeding your employees, right? Are you, nurturing them? Are you feeding them from a development perspective, right? So there's a bunch of different ways that you can make sure that you're feeding and developing your employees, right? Some of the things that come to mind, anybody that is a fan of a really, really good meal. And I think I actually saw our good friend, Alan, who's on with us, or at least he was earlier, if he's still on. Shout out to Alan. But Alan comes to mind specifically because I gave him a hard time in his preparation for holiday meals. Alan is a little bit of a chef, a self-proclaimed chef, right? And when he is putting together his ideas for a meal for holidays, right? Like he Gantt charts it out. Like I'm talking about like serious, like OCD, like project mapping these meals. I'm gonna start the beans at 8:15, get the jus ready at 8:45. Like it's intense, right? But what I appreciate about it though, right, is that he has a menu. Right. He has a menu that is even socialized with the folks that are going to be participating in the meal. So they understand, well, what am I going to be able to eat? Right. What is my meal going to look like? So I think about that going back to meals, and I say, well, what is the menu that you're offering your employees? Right. What is on the menu in terms of these are all the things available to you from a learning journey perspective? Right. This is what you can anticipate you're going to be fed. Right. This is how your development is going to look. This is your management training 101. You're going to go through these modules, or maybe you don't want the whole meal. Maybe there's components of the meal that you really have a hankering for, right? Mm-hmm. Like how can we customize your learning journey to meet your needs? So having clearly defined learning journeys, career pathing, right? And self-directed, yes, self-directed learning that says, hey, here's the menu. This is what we have available to feed you. And we make a mean time management course, right? You're going to really enjoy this.
Mm-hmm.
And then giving them the tools or the ability or the resources to dig into that themselves, right? And know that that's what's on, on the menu from a development perspective, right? So self-directed learning, kind of sticking with the food theme, right? You also have catered, right? So you have self-directed, but then you also may have catered learning, right? Where we're not relying on you to take yourself through it. Maybe as an organization, either our learning development apparatus, or we've contracted an outside vendor to come in, and they are going to serve you with information. I think about, our recent speaking engagement where we had the opportunity to, spend about a half hour or so just breaking down change management, grit, resilience, right? That's a great example of a catered development opportunity, right? Where you have these third-party catered meals or development for your employees, and being able to break those things down, right? And then again, continue to stick with the meals concept, right? Not everything has to be, a 3-course meal. Sometimes it's about making sure that you're feeding snacks along the way, right? Because those are just as important, right? And so that can look like, are you doing any type of micro development sessions or, career mapping, right? Career mapping in your one-on-one sessions with your direct reports, right? So am I spending time to just teach them a new skill set, to get them exposure to what it takes to operate at the next level or whatever the next level is for them? Am I pairing them with other people that are in that space? Again, all of these are different tools that you can leverage to ensure that you're delivering on getting your people the meals that they need to be fed.
Yeah, some just additional examples as well. I think about things, again, we're talking about different programs and investments that you can make that are going to have your employees feeling happy, feeling valued and engaged in the company and the direction of the company and what's going on. Tuition reimbursement, right, is an opportunity to be able to pay you, reimburse you for investing in your education. Some companies will allow you, as an example, with the company that I'm with right now, I'm part of the Association for Talent and Development, the national organization, as well as on the board for the chapter here in Central Florida. And the annual membership, the national membership, like that comes at a cost, but my company actually paid for that for me. So there's different things that companies can and will do at times, again, depending on the resources that are available, to continue to allow you to develop, invest in you for development, but also give you opportunities to continue to develop yourself as well.
What I love about that example specifically is that also shows, going back to our mind mapping exercise here for our legacy leaders, where you can have the bubbles end up blending or integrating, right? So like that example of paying for certifications or tuition reimbursement, that speaks to the money perspective in terms of offering value, but it also feeds the meals. And so there's where there's some overlap that as you start to just strategize and get these creative thoughts out, there's ways where you can actually feed both of those kind of tent poles with one initiative.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I didn't even, now that you say that, I didn't even think about, talking about money and investment, like 401k, that's something that we didn't necessarily have an opportunity to take advantage of previously. Now in our current situations, we do. But those are all things, again, those are benefits. Those are things that increase employee engagement along the way.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So again, hopefully our legacy leaders are able to kind of see a little bit of what we're talking about in terms of the value of mind mapping. You kind of listen to myself and Jimmy just have some free form thoughts about things that we can do in order to drive engagement. Again, the purpose of today's Cold Brew and Convo was not really to break down engagement. It was to show you practically how mind mapping works. But hopefully along the way, there were some good golden nuggets that you picked up from an engagement perspective. And if any of this seems, because again, it's a short period of time that we've been able to cover, if any of it seems like, okay, I kind of get the concept, but how do I know if I'm doing it right, or in what situation should I be trying to leverage mind mapping. Is this a great activity to take my team through? How does this work for my personal goals? How does this work if I'm trying to build a business? How would this work if I'm leading a team? The great news is you don't have to try and figure that out yourself, because we are going to be taking you through a series all throughout March. Again, Mind Mapping Madness, right? March Mind Map Madness, breaking down those exact things. We're going to hold your hand through this process. And again, all of this will ultimately culminate in us delivering our Relentless Drive series ebook that we've been working on, that we're going to be finalizing. That also includes some call outs around mind mapping and how to leverage the concepts of relentless drive, because we've been breaking down grit, we've been breaking down resilience, right? And then also now adding mind mapping to your tool belt as a leader, as an entrepreneur, so that you can really crush your goals and be focused in 2021.
We'll have some incentives and some sales going on for my birthday. So I think we'll be slashing some prices to make those things that much more enticing and appealing to you. But the thing that we're also very excited about is that these series of podcasts are going to be leading up to the end of March. If you've been with us since the beginning, as far as the Legacy Leader community here in Facebook, we did a 21-day challenge in the month of December, all about focus. Well, this is going to be leading us up to a 14-day challenge, all about mind mapping, and taking you through a series of exercises and specific topics and areas of your life that you can use mind mapping to help you improve your focus, to help you improve your success and accomplish the things that you are looking to accomplish. So the last one that we did in December was on us. This time there is going to be an investment needed on your part, but we promise you, that we are going to, we're going to under promise, but we're confident. We want to under promise and over deliver. That's always the goal. But we're confident in the experience that you're going to receive within that 14-day mind mapping challenge. So be on the lookout for that. We'll definitely provide more details along the way. But until then, again, check out the episode that just dropped today and learn more about how you can use podcasting in your business, in your organization, for onboarding, for skill development, for knowledge, for communication purposes. So many different use cases in using podcasting as a learning tool and adding that as an enhancement, again, to your learning and development strategy. Next up, 6 challenges mind mapping can help you to overcome. And then the following week after that, so in about 2 weeks or so, 3 main ways that consistent mind mapping will help you maintain and elevate and build your business for our entrepreneurs out there. So a lot going on in the month of March. Super exciting. Any questions? We still have some folks out there that are with us live right now. If you have any questions, we'd love to give you an opportunity to ask. And if you haven't, don't forget, if you're slipping on the Focus for Success course, that is still available as well, helping you to get more out of your 24. All right, we only got 24 hours. So being able to focus and break things down. Shout out to Rico.
One time.
All right, legacy leaders, we definitely appreciate this. We hope that you got something out of this session, again, as we were just kind of free flowing and going through the mind mapping process and breaking down what that is. Be on the lookout for the next episodes coming up. We appreciate y'all very, very much. Hope that everybody's doing well wherever you're out in the country right now or in the world. We got people all over the world following us. Again, we appreciate your time. Take care. God bless.
Stay encouraged.
Rage on that beat, going crazy.
You have just listened to the Legacy and Leadership Podcast, hosted by Jimmy Gonzalez and Devon Watts. Thank you, and we hope that you live, lead, and leave a legacy worth remembering. Until next time.